I'm doing some off-roading, and I come up over this knoll, and there's these posts down there. I think these are going to turn out to be plasma-fired fence posts. One here, one there, and there's at least one more over here. Kind of doing some off-roading here, but it is within eye shot of some place. That guy could have watched it happen. If it's right down there, he's within eye shot of it. It would appear that I was right about the plasma-fired fence posts. Let's go check them out up close. That one has the right angle to the light. It's where you can zoom in, you can see it's the charcoal on this side. Yep. Then there's another one down further, but let's go check them out up close. Oh, this is some spiky leaves, man. This is like the spikiest. Oh, I need to get my shit through this. Okay, so here's what it looks like unburned. And I'm kind of on the wrong side of the sunlight. But here you can see the line, the straight line between unburn and burn, going straight down, very fine line. Kind of all the way up and down the pole. And then let's here's going on to the other side. Break on through, man. Yeah, this one's not good one. That one don't look much better, but you can see it from here. Unburned on the right side over here, charcoal on the left, and a line that goes down it, and it kind of waves a little bit at the bottom. Pretty fine line between the charcoal on the left and the burn and the unburned on the right. Yeah. And while I'm sitting there recording it, I look down right beneath me, literally right where I stand, is another one of these posts. Ugh. That's how God works in weird ways, huh? It's got some barbed wire attached to it. It's got plenty of the burn on it, the charcoal burn, along with the unburned areas. It's a plasma-fired fence post right there at my feet, in the very sticker weeds I was bitching about walking in. You could make a parable about that in the book of Jeff. Pretty trippy, huh? Plasma-fired fence post right there where I'm standing. While I'm filming another one over there and one over here, I'm standing on the one in between them that fell over apparently. Oh, it looks like maybe, no, that's a tree. But anyway, gives me something to step on so I'm not getting poked by these killer weeds. Look at these fuckers, they hurt. You expect me to walk over there to get you another video of a fucking plasma fire burn that you don't give a shit about and I've got 1,000 others of? I'm off it, I'm done, I'm over it. Get your own plasma fire videos. So here's the pole count. 1, 2, 3, 4, and in between the two is the one that I found myself standing on. We got 5 plasma poles down there. The thing that I shouldn't fail to mention is that all of them are only burnt on the side that's facing us, and they're unburnt on the back side. All of them repeat this burn pattern. They're burned on one side, unburned on the other. Burned on the side that's facing us, unburned on the side that's facing away from us. Fire don't do that. Electricity does that when it moves up and through them, and then it comes out in this direction because fire only burns where it enters and exits. It can flow through you. Lightning can strike you in the head and come out your foot and leave 2 burn marks, one at your head and one at your foot. And course the way through you without burning, only where it enters and exits. So it exited that pole facing towards us, or it entered that pole from the side that's facing towards us and flowed through it. Electricity does that, not fire. They're all burned on one side. That's the big takeaway from this whole plasma pole thing. So the big takeaway, the fact that they're all burned on one side and not the other side, that means it's electricity going through them. We've established this 1,000 times over in the previous videos that I mentioned that you don't give a shit about. The 1,000 previous examples I have of plasma fire, we've already established that it's electricity going through those poles. The big takeaway from that, the fact that it's electricity burning these fence posts, burning these trees on the inside, when it hits an urban area, burning the houses to the ground and melting the cars while leaving the trees standing, and instead burning the more conductive material that is conductive of electricity. The takeaway from all of that is that your time here is very limited. The lyric in the song by Tool, Right in Two, says, "Repugnant is a creature that would squander the ability to lift an eye to heaven, conscious of his fleeting time here." That's what you've just been given, is the conscious awareness of your fleeting time here. When the trees start burning all around you on the inside, guess what that means? That means you don't have much longer left. That means the world as you've always known it is over. That is the embedded message, like carved in stone, except it's burned into wood and every other material around us. That's not me making shit up. That is an obvious conclusion that one could come through using logical deductive reasoning. When the trees start burning on the inside all around you, guess what that means? You don't have much longer. That's not a stretch. That's not grasping at threads. That's the obvious, blatant, in your face message that you're being delivered when you see the trees burning on the inside all around you. We don't have much longer. This world is over. And repugnant is a creature who would squander the ability to lift an eye to heaven, conscious of his fleeting time here.
Man is about to get an eviction notice. They just don't know it. The earth is about to endure something, and this is not hopeful. This is not wishful thinking. This is not some tool of rhetoric, right? This is absolute. We're going to have a big problem with our magnetosphere. Just so that folks understand this, without the magnetosphere, we're going to be, many things will be set on fire. We're about to undergo a magnetosphere moment where our magnetosphere becomes quite chaotic. This is going to happen right before it totally goes away. So we'll have 10 days without a magnetosphere. Nothing facing the sun will survive. Not one soul better be caught outside.
Anybody not wearing 2 million sunblock is gonna have a real bad day, get it?
We have to let everyone know. We have to call the NOAA.
They already know. The announcement will come anytime now.
going to be bad. Prior to that time, there's going to be chaos in the magnetosphere. And who's going to tell anybody about this? I doubt they can't tell anybody about this, because you have folks that understand what that means.
Is there something that Mark Zuckerberg seems to know that we don't? Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook, and that's of course a company that's owned by Meta, has started to prepare for a doomsday. The Facebook founder is creating a compound which features a doomsday bunker. He's creating this compound in Hawaii and not on mainland United States. The secret project, which the Meta chief is apparently hiding from the public, is called the Kola Ranch. The project which revealed that ranch is one of the most expensive personal construction projects in modern history. It seems like this ranch is not only a retreat, but more like a potential survival base for Mark Zuckerberg and his family in the wake of any catastrophic event. But why is he spending $100 million? He's putting his money on a certain idea that other people do not seem to be aware of. Now, Zuckerberg's not the only billionaire who's invested in some type of doomsday-proof property. There are several other billionaires and tech titans who also built bunkers or safe houses that might provide them with safety from any kind of a hypothetical scenarios where there is a potential or a possibility of the collapse of civilization.
We have solar winds that are constantly blowing on the Earth. Without a CME, just the standard solar winds, without a magnetosphere, would set everything sunlight touches on fire. But you know how you've heard people say, well, you know, if the Earth has a magnetic shift, it's no big deal, right? It's just no big deal. It's not a physical flip. You know, magnetic north will change, this, that, and the other, right? They lied. We're about to go through this process. The process has already started. It's beginning. There's an actual memo, right? There's a memo. There's a document set. It's kind of like an emergency document set. There's a change in infrastructure. What do they call that? It's something like an emergency, but not quite that language, because it's understood that the Earth is about to go through that process again, and prior to getting to the point of the actual flip, right? Because the magnetic shielding of the Earth will begin to weaken. It'll go chaotic. It'll start to weaken, right? When it totally weakens, it's going to do so for 10 days, then it will come back, right? The sun is not going to go out in these 10 days. That means, for example, if a person is outside, it'll be like standing in a microwave if they're outside. We've had examples of this before in the northern regions of the Earth, specifically in 2004, 2006, 2007, where people stepped into the missing part of the atmosphere, and within, I think it was 15 seconds, they were cooked from the inside out. That's already happened. There have been examples. There was they had off limits areas in the Arctic regions for a while because of the missing ozone and a missing chunk of the atmosphere. Well, some folks got caught in that, and it was only for about 15 seconds, and they were burnt from the inside out. With this magnetic flip, we don't have a magnetosphere during that time.
Enveloping our planet and protecting us from the fury of the sun is a giant bubble of magnetism called the magnetosphere. It deflects most of the solar material sweeping towards us from our star at 1 million miles per hour or more. Without the magnetosphere, the relentless action of these solar particles could strip the Earth of its protective layers, which shield us from the sun's ultraviolet radiation. It's clear that this magnetic bubble was key to helping Earth develop into a habitable planet. Compare Earth to Mars, a planet that lost its magnetosphere about 4.2 billion years ago. The solar wind is thought to have stripped away most of Mars's atmosphere, possibly after the red planet's magnetic field dissipated. This has left Mars as the stark, barren world we see today through the eyes of NASA orbiters and rovers. By contrast, Earth's magnetosphere seems to have kept our atmosphere protected. Eftahia Zesta of the Geospace Physics Laboratory at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center notes, if there were no magnetic field, we might have a very different atmosphere left. without life as we know it.
Everything has to reorientate itself, and it takes about 10 days for that to happen, right? So we have no protection from the sun, none. It's not a maybe. That's not fear mongering. That's not anything. But I'm telling you, they know it's about to go chaotic. They know it's going chaotic, and even in the chaotic time, in these months that we're about to go through, because it can stay so long as it's chaotic. Various places are going to catch on fire. There'll be spontaneous fires. There'll be people with just hit with high doses of cancer. Right? It's not a very good time to go through. Right? We know that time is starting to begin. They know that time is starting to begin, and lots of contingencies will begin to go in place because of that. That leaves Earth vulnerable in many different ways. Many ways. I mean, beyond any other threat we've ever faced. So we don't need a solar flare. We don't need a CME. We don't need any of that. When it starts to go chaotic, the fires, thank God we have the oceans, but that's only going to protect us for a little while, because once that begins, we'll have a mass evaporation event of the oceans, right? That means fog everywhere. Of course, after that, it also means everybody across the entire globe will see auroras. And it won't make sense, because they'll say, well, we didn't have a flare, didn't do this, we didn't have this, we didn't have that. How are we seeing this? It's going to be everywhere. That process has already begun. And some of the letters, some of the memos that have just come out in the last 2 days, the language is quite alarming. This is not just talk. These are agency level memos that went everywhere, and everybody has to read them. Anybody who gets them, they can't ignore them. Let's put it that way. This is a humanitarian problem. Biblical scale, right? That's what it really is. And so, is it survivable? Yes, but it's going to be not good. Could you imagine forest fires? All these forest fires we've had, can you imagine the entire Earth engulfed with forest fire? That would be bad. This is what we're facing. So we're in a time now where information is good to know. A lot of people will not have that information. And because we've never gone through that before, nobody knows the extent. So it's not going to end the world. That's not what it's going to do, but it's going to burn large portions. It's also time for people to they have to start looking at the realistic consequences of these things, because a lot of people will live through it, probably yes, but it's not going to feel good.
With the breaking news out of San Jose, our choppers over multiple house fires. This is just south of Lake Cunningham Park and across the street from Reed Hillview Airport. Lake Cunningham Park and Reed Hillview separated by East Capitol Expressway.
Now the flames bursting through the roofs of those homes and the smoke covering several blocks. A few streets away, more homes have caught fire. This is the scene from the ground. It is near the intersection of Sandpoint Drive and Quimby Road. Right now, we do not know what started these fires. It is so dangerous in the area that police just made our photographer leave the scene. Again, this is happening just east of Capitol Expressway near the East Ridge Mall. The San Jose Fire Department says there are 3 separate fires in that area, and we do not know how they started, if they're related or not. But the homes are at least a block apart. They are asking everyone to avoid the area.
The whole neighborhood is covered in smoke. It's pure speculation. The winds down at the airport are blowing to 25 miles an hour. And it is easy to spread embers on a day like this, which is not unusually hot, but it's warm enough and the winds are strong enough so that it's possible, as you can see, the wind's taking the smoke in an almost horizontal direction, that it could be taking some embers with it. Because how else do you explain multiple houses being on fire at the same time? But there are many people that are trying to tackle the fires at the moment. You can stay with us for the latest. We'll keep you updated on air and on.
The fact that the police made a photographer leave the scene wasn't necessarily for the safety of that individual photographer. It was for the safety of the general public at large, to keep the understanding of what's going on here from becoming public knowledge to keep the cattle, the livestock of human beings from stampeding. We need to keep them from seeing multiple houses igniting simultaneously, far enough apart that, you know, the fires didn't catch one upon the other. Embers blowing in the wind, they started simultaneously. 6 houses in 3 different locations. And they're chasing photographers away from the scene.
Breaking news right now. Fire roars through an apartment complex parking garage in Studio City. Multiple cars went up in flames. Now, the fire started just before 5 a.m. There were explosions and flames briefly spreading to the building, but firefighters contained the flames before it did any damage. A woman who lives there describes her panic.
I just woke up to the sound of crackling and a scream, and I looked out my window and saw red, and I grabbed my cat and woke everybody up and came out and looked. My car was on fire. All the cars in our little parking spot are on fire. I don't know what happened, and it grew really fast.
Oh my gosh. Well, we are still trying to find out exactly how many cars burned. There are no reports of injuries, but definitely a tough wake-up call on this Sunday morning.
And those cars look like total losses. That's so tough.
But first, this fast-spreading wildfire in California prompts evacuations. I find it interesting. I saw on 2 network mainstream media within like just a few minutes of each other post videos, and they say California prompts evacuate. These evacuations, 75% contained for this fire, and a whole lot of the evacuations were lifted. And I knew that before seeing these videos posted by CBS, and I think the other one was either ABC or NBC. But it reads as if the fire is still going on and more evacuations are taking place. Mainstream media, do you really need to do clickbait? I guess so. Look at this. Okay, so you see, and I saw a comment from someone who said, you know, people argue that it's because of all of the moisture in the trees, whether or not they will catch fire. Look at the destruction of this house and the cars. There's no moisture right here, not in dead limbs. Dead limbs. So that argument does not work very well, especially when you see that if it was a wildfire, this house would have gotten to this condition in probably 48 hours. It would have taken a whole long time to bring it to this condition. So I do believe that we've got directed energy weapons in use.
In others narrowly spared.
So the reporter on mainstream media is talking about how, well, yeah, this is the burn scar. It's the burn scar. This looks very strange. Very strange. But here he's talking about the destruction of this house, and then, well, I think it's a mystery how other structures were saved.
With some properties leveled and others narrowly spared.
Others narrowly spared. So, someone put out this fire, I guess, to save all of this and other structures that I showed last night. But for some reason, this one was just brought to dust. It pisses me off to no end to listen to these propagandists reading their scripts and getting paid to do it.
in others narrowly spared.
Everything was getting lit on fire. It was intense.
Kern Gill took this video of the fire closing in on his home.
So these fires have peculiar fire lines, like the one that you can see there, that often follow fence lines or a ridge line or a ditch, an impression. They follow the topography of the surface and the contours of the land in ways that normal fires do not. And also, this is one semi-good example. That smoke could be rising straight up or going back over the burned area. I've seen it a bunch of times where the smoke is actually going back over the already burned area in this image, presuming that above that fire line is all burned and below that fire line is unburned. There's plenty of examples where the smoke is blowing back onto the already burned area, indicating the fire is moving in the opposite direction of the wind. That is not only possible with these type of fires, it is common. Where maybe that's an electromagnetic flux line moving through the ground and it creates ionic wind moving in the opposite direction. So the fire line is actually burning in one direction while the wind is blowing in the opposite direction. It happens as a very common occurrence with these kinds of fires. These most recent fires in California are demonstrating the same pattern, where it leaves the trees unburned when there's more conductive material around to be burned, like houses and cars. I'll just reference here the song by Sarah McLachlan titled "World on Fire." This lyric right here shows you what they're talking about and why she even made this song titled "World on Fire." They know what they're looking forward to. They're not guessing. They're not grasping at threads. They're explicitly laying it out in detail for those with the eyes to see and the ears to hear. Parting the veil on our killer sun is referring to our magnetic field. That is the veil that protects us from the killer sun. I won't go on with too many more of these fire-based muse messages, but this is the song by Jack Johnson titled "All at Once," and you can see from this lyric what it's talking about, where it says, "Around the sun, some say, it's gonna be the new hell, some say. It's still too early to tell, some say. It really ain't no myth at all." And he's talking about the same process that Sarah McLachlan's talking about in her song "World on Fire," when we part the veil on our killer sun. So this means that this isn't like, oh no, something's gone terribly wrong, how could this have happened? This is what it was always leading up to. It was always leading up to this. This isn't that we've derailed and gone in the wrong direction. This is the inevitable conclusion and the result that some people knew was coming the whole time and made songs about. So that was a lyric from "All at Once" by Jack Johnson. Kind of like in the movie Knowing with Nicolas Cage, that ends in the world on fire in a big fireball from a solar blast. "Everyone Everywhere" was the final entry in the ledger that he had found of this girl that apparently predicted the future by entering in coordinates, longitude and latitude, and a number. And that number corresponded with the number of people who died in a mass casualty event at that coordinates. And Nicolas Cage started to figure this out, and he goes to the next coordinate, and sure enough, there's the number of people that died at that coordinates, and this little girl had predicted the future, and the final ledger entry was EE, which turned out to mean everyone, everywhere, all at once. All at once, the world can overwhelm me. There's almost nothing that you could tell me that could ease my mind.
Which way will you run when it's always all around you? And the feeling lost and found you again, the feeling that we have no control. Around the sun, some say, is gonna be the new hell. Some say it's still too early to tell. Some say it really ain't no myth at all. Keep asking ourselves, are we really strong enough? And there's so many things that we got too proud of. We're too proud of. I want to take the preconceived out from underneath your feet. We can shake it off and instead we'll plant some seeds. Watch them as they grow, and with each new beat, from your heart the roots grow deeper. The branches, will they reach for what? Nobody really knows. But underneath it all, there's this heart alone. And what about when it's gone? Oh, it really won't be so long. Sometimes it feels like a heart is no place to be singing from it all. But there's a world we've never seen, there's still hope between the dreams, and the weight of it all can blow away with the breeze. If you're waiting on the wind, well, don't forget to breathe, 'cause as the darkness gets deeper, we'll sink until we reach for love, at least something we can hold. And I'll reach to you from where time just can't go. But what about when it's gone? Oh, really won't be so long. Sometimes it feels like a heart is no place to be singing from it all.